Consciousness is a system of government. Very little is understood about consciousness at this point. So we're going to discuss how it functions and how the inner becomes the outer. So in essence, you can look at the world and the world government systems to understand how consciousness functions and eventually end up with a character or personality that act like a president that seems to be in charge of all of this. But just like in this world, there is no direct relationship between the president and the individual citizens, which in this case would be the cells in the body. But the cells in the body itself have their own consciousness, just like a human being, that functions within their structured design, and obviously they believe as who and what they are in relationship to all the other cells in the body. And within that, the character that eventually end up as being the president or the primary consciousness of the human that present itself as personality in various situations are directly related to what happens at a cellular memory level. And this cellular memory level is in part, the greater part, developed and designed during the first 7 years of a child's life. Within these cellular memories, which are in itself dimensions of time that has been saved, not unlike a photograph, only that in this case the picture as the dimension of any particular part is alive in a way, so it is like a living, moving picture. And from this is derived all the information that will form the nature of the character of the consciousness that becomes the primary participant as the total physical body in this world that eventually would end up creating a government that manage the interaction between people through systems, departments, policy, and so on. As within, so without. As you have organizations in this world, you have organizations in the body. They are functional according to their particular responsibilities, and they are the organs. These organs will function very specifically, utilizing particular resources for particular benefits to the greater consciousness to keep the body so-called stable. So the human being, we'll take that as an example at the moment, is in fact like a copy of the earth. People very easily claim as above, so below, because that suits their self-interest. But as above, so below is a statement of equality. Thus, it also means as below, so above, as in, as out, as in. This world as it exists, with multiple countries, multiple forms of cultures, societies, is exactly the same that exists inside the human, where you have characters based on memories, events that form parts of a personality, which is like a global society, which then interacts with other planets or humans. Similarly, this is happening right here, right now, on Earth, where every child, when they're born, through quantum mechanics of the mind and the physical as one, would develop and integrate everything that is already here, preparing themselves to approximately 70% of what they will know in their entire lifetime. All this happens in the first 7 years of a child's life. Then developed the mind as the human know it, consciousness, the personalities, the memories necessary for the characters to act. I mean, if you're born into a particular culture, that becomes your primary dominant memory about culture, and according to that you'll make your judgments, according to that you'll make your decisions. You're not free, you're just the result of parroting what is already here. You're not born with any of it. It doesn't come from the soul from somewhere else. It is happening right here in front of your eyes with every child. Yet no one understands the most basic stuff about the mechanics, and yet without understanding how it is that you think, you will believe your own thoughts, you will believe your own knowledge, you'll believe your own conclusions, you'll believe your own feelings, you'll believe your own emotions, and you'll act as if it is value. Do you understand how ignorant that is? Do you understand that whatever you're reading, written by whomsoever claimed whatsoever, and they have not shown or cannot show to you exactly how the mechanics of the mind work. You cannot trust the word they say because it only comes via their memories. It is made up, it's fabricated. You're living in a fabricated existence, a fabricated society, all about fabricated systems. And who you are is a self-fabrication based on what you integrated in the first 7 years of your life. The same fabrications your parents and their grandparents were, you're just repeating. Nothing really ever changed but the picture. It's like all everyone is ever doing with spirituality is a form of inner feng shui, where they move things around and then do things slightly different, but it's actually always exactly the same pattern, producing exactly the same result. And in fact, because there is such a vast amount of ignorance, the world systems are just simply slowly collapsing. They cannot continue, they cannot sustain themselves, because the very participants in these systems have no clue how it really works. So, what would an equal money system as such represent is the opportunity to have the time to study the quanta, the actuality, the mechanics, the reality of how the physical actually functions. To study why it is that you cannot believe your thoughts, why it is that the consciousness that exists is nothing else but a government, and that the various characters, the multiple personalities you have that vary according to environment, are no different to the multiple different types of governments and countries you have in the world, and that they all are vying to become a superpower, a dictator. I mean, all a superpower is actually a dictator. America is just a dictatorship, far worse than Hitler could ever have been. Yet, because America represents exactly the same system that is happening in every human being, no one will actually really question it. There will ever only be the exact same cycle repeating itself, because the human is only the end result of a cycle, already programmed, without understanding how the program operates. You are just a user. Like on Facebook, you're just a user. A user is always an abuser, because the user do not understand how things actually work. And the user only wants to be satisfied. There's only self-interest. There is no interest by the user to take the time to study exactly how something works, to make it work as what is best for all, because what is best for all will always be equal to what is best for all. Therefore, it's always measurable, because it is always a mathematical equation. It is not something that is done specifically in a specific way. It is that whatever is done measurably in a way that is best for all. Therefore, if something is found not to be best for all, we change it. It's not a prescription, because if you do something that is causing an imbalance, then it's no longer best for all. There's going to be then some that's happier and some that is not happy. But best for all is a state of equality, where everyone is essentially, by virtue of having whatever is available, equally in a state of equilibrium, thus happiness. If you want to be more happy than that, you are obviously an abuser, because you want more than someone else. Within that context, though, you will still have individuality and you will have diversity, because in this world, this is an interconnected oneness. We are dependent on each other, regardless of anything. Currently, the dependency is between master and slave. If you are not free from labor, or you don't even have labor and you have no money, you are a slave. Those with money can abuse you, and you will do things for money. You can be bought. It is inevitable that you will be bought. You have sold your right to life for money. That is where the whole soul thing come from, because you sold yourself. And therefore, when you died, you continue as the soul. That means as that which has been sold as a slave into the slavery of heaven, because heaven was just slavery. You being a slave to keep heaven going, heaven based on energy, and the energy harvested from the human, while the human is on earth. So you had to reincarnate to come and work on the mines on earth, to mine the energy through the system of the mind, to produce the energy for the elite in heaven. That's why you reincarnated. But obviously, to make you a happy slave, you were told wonderful stories, mysteries. That's why you missed the tree, many mysteries. And so, to produce the energy, you're created as the tree of knowledge of good and evil, so that you can have a polarity, and through the friction create the energy, the good and the bad energy, separating the two, so that you can feed your masters in heaven, because they promised you eternal life if you are loyal. But they didn't even have eternal life, because they were subject to you as a slave to create the energy for them to exist in heaven. If you ever had the ability to actually look at how things work. That means you were free from the physical vessel. You would know this, but you're not free. All you can ever see is what has been programmed into you. You can only ever interpret. You can only ever fabricate. You are only a parrot. There is nothing original ever in you. From the moment of birth, when you entered this world, you were controlled. Everything was destined, pre-programmed. That's why you have a fingerprint. That's why astrology exists. This is why your palms can be read, because what are they reading is your life plan. You've been programmed, and your life plan is linked to certain astrological phenomena, movements. According to that, life on earth is planned to make sure that the society produce the energy heaven requires to exist. That's what you do with an organization. The heart within the physical body was designed as the heart of currency. That means the heart of now. That means the heart of money, to make sure that you remain loyal to your objective, to work in the mines of earth, mining from the substance of earth, the dust of the earth, the energy necessary to produce heaven. And that's exactly what we found through the portal. We are sharing with you exactly all the things we found. But it's very difficult, I understand, for you to hear, because the conceptualization of anything else but what you are programmed to be is very difficult. That is why it is a process. And those that's been walking it for some time, it took a while for them to be able to break the veil, to start to see what's really directly here without looking through the mind. You don't just do that. Those that claim that without actually having walked a process of self-forgiveness and self-honesty, you cannot trust a word. They're just parrots. That's just the ego jumping on the bandwagon, trying to present themselves as better than they are. You have to check their writing. You have to check their structural forgiveness. You have to check if they are really, actually doing this. If they're not, don't waste your time. They're just abusers. They're just illusionists trying to take advantage because they believe they're clever. But all that's clever will come to an end. So, don't waste your time. Ignore them as the ignorance they represent, so that they can face their own ignorance. Leave them in the bliss they are, till they can no longer ignore the collapse of the reality. And don't worry. If they die, it is appropriate. It meant they would never have done it anyway. Understand that here is another way to look at Earth. Earth is the opportunity for the individualization as life, and therefore a reality is created within which one exists within both life and illusion, to see who you are and what you can be trusted with. If you can only be trusted with the illusion, then you will not continue after this. If you can be trusted with life, you will be welcomed home. But you don't get that for free. You don't get that if you don't understand how it works. Because if you don't understand how it works, you will abuse others. It's exactly what happens here on earth. And therefore, it was necessary. And therefore, not everyone is going to enter life. But it would be nice if everyone could. Yet, it depends on each one individually. It is your absolute own alone journey. You have to prove that you are worthy of life, that you understand the total creation of everything. In fact, and yes, it is possible, and it is rather simplistic, and if you understand it, you will no longer abuse it. Within this, equal money is a temporary support till we create a new reality. And there is much, much more to this. There's the Journey to Life blogs from Heaven's blogs. You can read my blogs. You can check it at quaf.com. All the interviews that's being done on the quantum mind. There will be more on quantum parenting. All of this to assist for those that dare to take self-responsibility. But you have to act. It's not going to happen by itself. The thoughts, the emotions, the feelings you are having is not your own. They are the end result of your interpretation of the memories that's inside your physical that act very similarly and in an equal type of form to how governments on earth now act, cultures on earth, religions, education, society, how all of this is functioning, is how your mind functions. In a way, your thoughts is the media, the advertising. It is your characters trying to convince each other who's the most important character, and that one wins and becomes your primary personality. Your thoughts is like an advertising agency happening inside you. Only you are watching it. It's your entertainment center, only you watching it. It decides, it designs who you are as the fabricated self. And you can do it any way you like. And then once you've got it going and you've decided on a primary character, you go out there and you try and influence others to follow you. Oh, great illusionist. And you fabricate wonderful ways for people to become just like you. Lost in your own fabrications. No idea, no clue how you actually did it. And therefore you can't stop because you don't know how you did it. That is why the process exists, so you can learn how you did it, so you can stop yourself. That, as those that has already walked the process thus far know, is not easy. You don't just stop your own fabrication because you've automated it. It runs by itself. It's a series. You're a serial killer. You keep on killing life in every possible way to try and remove any form of reminder that there is some point where there is accountability and responsibility, because in your own advertising agency you are being told how wonderful free you are, how lucky you are, how happy you are, but all of it is absolute bullshit that you've created yourself. So we will present more on the analogies on the point of how the programming function. There is a book available, Virus-Free Mind. I wrote it about 12 years ago, that explains some of the basics. Obviously now we are explaining things in extensive formats. Very few people thus far has seen this, because very few people has actually dared to start to study the most basic important thing about the matrix. It is yourself. Man, know thyself, as the physical, as how the quantum mechanics work. Did you know that even the time of your life is determined? Yes, it's in your physical. It's the telomere. Science has already established that, which means we can change that. But there is so much fear to change anything in the genetics, because You are programmed as the genetic, so there is security firms inside you. Your insecurities, they are in security to protect your pre-programming, running around like police to make sure the thoughts come up with sufficient fear to make sure you don't change. You are just brainwashed, controlled, under the constant threat of your own security, your inner security that makes sure you never change. You always toe the line. You always work according to your program. Every thought you have is always a lie. There is not one original thought you ever have. Everything you feel is always a lie. Every emotion you feel is always a lie. None of it is ever original. You didn't even create it. You only accepted and allowed it to be programmed into you. And from that you formed your consciousness. And then you are so ignorant that you believe that that consciousness is you. But it's just a lie. None of it ever true. You can burn every book you've ever read, because all of it were written by people trapped in the lie of their consciousness, trying to make sense of what is going on here on earth, but none of them ever went back to the quantum mechanics. How did I create this? Where did this thought come from? How does thought actually work? No one knows that. No one studies that. If you study that self-honestly, you will stop the lie. You'll realize that energy, love, vibrations, frequencies, all of it is only lies. It's only things you fabricate within you. The frequencies, the vibrations that is relevant are relevant within a physical realm. But those that you fabricate in your own mind through isolating, for instance, only the positive and excluding the negative just so you can feel good, you are the one fabricating it. It's not real. There is no truth. You can't seek the truth because the truth is already here. If you are looking for the truth, it is because you are living in the lie. The truth is this physical world. It is a total representation, the mirror of your inner self. Everything that goes on in this world, from war to rape to molestation to poverty to wealth, everything, all of it exists inside every human being in varying degrees. That is the principles of the quantum moving. They move together. So you change, the world change. Why don't the world change? It's because you don't change. Anyone that claim that they have changed, it is not true. Everyone will have to change if the world is to change. And the world will go to the state that is necessary to force this. Slowly but surely. And before you know it, it may be too late. And you won't be ready. And it is okay if you're not ready, because that is your decision. And that decision, that reality, the who I am, decides everything. That is the nature of this existence. There is no forgiveness but self-forgiveness. There is no honesty but self-honesty. There is nothing else but what is best for all. Best for all is not debatable because it is measurable, it is functional, it is mathematical, and it is scientific, in which one can work out the simplicity of the relationships between every form that is here and what would be the best for it. If one truly care about that, then you understand what real love is all about. And then you would understand that participating in a system as it exists now is abusive. It is necessary that we start a new system. One where we are in fact responsible and accountable. So, join us with Equal Money. Join us at Destiny. Do your homework. Make sure your self-interest don't rule your common sense.